Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Today, the game is different.
I want to gamble. Gambling is a very serious business. Is that clear?
Welcome to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you here, deep from the swamps of Jersey. We got a great show coming up for you. Daily fantasy sports has become part of the sports landscape. I'm sure we've all seen the TV commercials from FanDuel and DraftKings, and maybe even heard the radio commercials on this very program. But not a lot of people know how these companies became powerhouses in the sports industry. Coming up, I'm going to be talking with Albert Chen, who is senior editor and writer with Sports Illustrated. Albert wrote an incredible book detailing the rise of these two companies. The book is called $1 Billion Fantasy, the high-stakes game between FanDuel and DraftKings that upended sports in America. And after the break, Albert Chen is going to tell us all about these two incredible companies. So stick around, and we'll be right back with House of Cards. Hey, Dave Weishaupt from House of Cards. I just got my Dugout mug delivered, and I am loving it. Dugout mugs are mugs made out of baseball bats, and they are officially licensed by Major League Baseball so you can get your favorite baseball team's logo on your mug. Just think of it, enjoying your favorite drink while watching your favorite baseball team with your team's logo on your mug made from a baseball bat. They can even make customized mugs. Check out the mug they made for House of Cards. I mean, just look at that. That looks awesome. I've never seen anything like them. If you go to dugoutmugs.com, you'll find out they even make more things than mugs. They have baseball board games, grilling equipment made from baseball bats. They even have a section for gifts for under $30. Head on over to dugoutmugs.com because if you're a baseball fan or need a gift for a baseball fan, you have to check out Dugout Mugs. And use our promo code PIKE at checkout to get 20% off your purchase price. That's promo code PIKE, P-I-K-E. Also, free shipping with orders over $99. You can't beat that. DugoutMugs.com. That's my go-to place if I need a gift for a baseball fan. Well, if you excuse me now, the game is about to go on, and the wind is just right for drinking. Hey, this is Dave Weishaupt from House of Cards with your House of Cards gaming report for the week of July 28, 2025. The first ever G2E Dealer Championship will debut at this year's Global Gaming Expo, which is presented by the American Gaming Association and organized by RX. This multi-day event will bring together top casino dealers across the U.S. to compete for the title of the best dealer in America. The Dealer Championship event is open to all full-time, part-time, and dual-rate dealers from legal online and land-based casinos and must be nominated by their employer to participate. Gila River Resorts and Casino at Santon Mountain announced the addition of its Bingo Club. The new Bingo Club will be 13,000 square feet, will have daytime and nighttime bingo sessions, and will have both indoor and outdoor areas. The property will celebrate the new Bingo Hall with a 4-day grand opening, which will run from August 29th to September 1st. And finally, Aristocrat Interactive announced the launch of the Jackpot Carnival Buffalo online slot game. This game brings together two of Aristocrat's most successful land-based slot games, Jackpot Carnival and Buffalo. The game also includes a hammer bonus in which players can smash through multiplier charts while picking up prizes. The online casino game is available in Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ontario, and the United Kingdom. Have any news or tips regarding casinos, gaming, or legislation? Send us an email at newsroom@houseofcardsradio.com and follow us on X at HOC Radio.
You're listening to House of Cards. Check out our website at houseofcardsradio.com.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you. Anyone out there who follows sports has heard of FanDuel and DraftKings. I'm sure you've seen the television commercials and maybe even heard me read some of those commercials on this radio show. But not a lot of people know how they came into existence or how they changed the sports scene forever. But now there's an amazing book that documents the evolution of these two companies written by Sports Illustrated senior editor and writer Albert Chen. The book is called $1 Billion Fantasy, the high-stakes game between FanDuel and DraftKings that upended sports in America. And we are lucky to have Albert Chen on the phone to talk about it. Albert, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
Albert, we were talking off the air, and I told you this is a fascinating book. What motivated you to write this?
Well, I think we were talking about 2014, 2015 specifically, and when you were getting sort of these requests from, whether it's FanDuel or DraftKings about doing advertising with you guys, and, maybe you didn't know the whole story of what these companies were or what these types of daily fantasy games exactly were, and then they had this explosion of advertising in 2015, and they were everywhere. And I actually started playing, because I'm a big fantasy sports guy, and started playing their product, very casually in 2014, actually. And, I thought they were pretty fun, and I could understand why people liked, their product. Didn't love that I lost some money, while playing them. But, and then sort of fast forward to 2015, the fall, there's just like this onslaught of advertising. And that was when I had sort of developed some relationships with the companies, because I did a story for Sports Illustrated in 2015 as the industry was on the rise. And then in 2015, when the explosion happened, then it seemed like, okay, well, maybe this story's getting big enough for a book.
Like you said, before I got the copy to read these commercials, I didn't know what daily fantasy sports was. And when I heard of fantasy sports, I always thought about a group of guys in August meeting in a bar to do their season-long fantasy draft. So that was my concept of fantasy sports. When you first started doing this story with FanDuel and DraftKings, did you have some preconceived notion of what these two companies were all about, or did you go into, fantasy sports were the season long, and let's see what these guys are doing with regard to fantasy sports?
I had maybe some preconceived notions of, I thought, okay, well, clearly these guys know what they're doing, and, it's just very much startup story of just like few people with this passion for fantasy sports and passion for sports and kind of the entrepreneurial spirit, and let's see where this goes. So, I you kind of hear that startup story again and again come up. Usually it's someone pretty passionate about sports. What was so interesting is that specifically in the case of FanDuel, it was actually 5 people from the UK who weren't sports fans, American sports fans at all. And in fact, the person who was behind the onslaught of advertising was a woman, a mother in Scotland who didn't follow sports, still doesn't follow sports. And so, my preconceived notions were turned upside down, and I think that's what kind of really attracted me to the story. And so what you have here, as I mentioned, FanDuel, UK guys who started this company, weren't sports fans, DraftKings, 3 serious sports fans, actually not sports fans, but 2 of the 3 were sort of big sports fans, but really 3 guys who were in Boston and big sort of startup guys who really had a dream of making this kind of almost like a Facebook of sports, that really was a startup that was going to change the way people consume sports.
That's what fascinated me in the first place. I mean, you have 2 groups of founders. They have the same fundamental concept and same sort of business plan for their 2 companies, but they came from totally different backgrounds and I guess totally different approaches. Like you said, one were sports fans and the other ones were not.
That's right. And so what you get into now is a question of, okay, well, how did it actually benefit them that when they grew their business that they weren't sports fans in the case of FanDuel, which actually came, well before DraftKings, and they sort of grew their company in interesting ways where they were sort of, in a lot of ways, marketing to people like them who weren't sports fans, and, okay, well, maybe our product can reach people who, aren't hardcore sports fans, but are looking for ways to, engage in sports or have skin in the game and be interested in, sort of, being engaged with friends who are sports fans. So it's kind of like an interesting case study of two companies with completely different approaches.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Rated in the best hearing aids of 2024, the Audien Adam 2 series offers superior sound quality and functionality for a fraction of the price. For just $189 a pair, the Adam 2 features 4 different hearing modes for all types of hearing loss. It packs crystal clear sound, a nearly invisible design, and is even rechargeable.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids. They're so comfortable, I forget I'm wearing them. And the sound is amazing.
The Adam Pro 2 is our smallest hearing aid yet, featuring advanced background noise cancellation and is the world's first hearing aid with built-in UV cleaning that kills 99% of bacteria.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed without seeing a doctor or having a hearing test.
Join over 500,000 happy customers today and get the hearing you deserve.
Call 1-800-457-0924 or go to audienhearing.com to get your pair of Audien hearing aids starting at just $189.
Sometimes life is wonderful, and sometimes it's not. Cherish the good, but always be prepared for life's challenges. At Private Healthcare, we provide the peace of mind you deserve. With Private Healthcare, you'll get the coverage you want and healthcare you need. If your employer doesn't supply healthcare coverage and you don't qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, you need to give us a call right now. Private Healthcare is private health insurance for ages 65 and under with medical, dental, vision, and even prescription coverage. When life comes at you unexpectedly, you need to be ready. And health insurance is your financial safety net. Health insurance has never been so easy and affordable. If you're looking for health coverage at the best price and your annual household income is $35,000 or more, give us a call at 800-733-6860. 800-733-6860.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Where was the house? Where was the house of cards?
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you here. House of Cards is brought to you by BetMGM Casino. Create an account using our promo code Turnpike and become a verified player. New players get $25 free when signing up, plus a first deposit bonus up to $1,000. Must be 21 years or older to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Albert Chen, author of Billion Dollar Fantasy, the high-stakes game between FanDuel and DraftKings that upended sports in America. You know, when both these companies formed, what were some of the challenges that they both had to face and overcome in order to get both their companies off the ground?
Well, a lot of it, really the crux of the thing, the tension and the conflict of the story is pretty much this question of, okay, well, like if you are, playing fantasy sports, that's kind of like this friendly competition, as you mentioned. I'm sure you have friends and, who kind of fly in for an auction, and, have 12 guys at a bar and once a year kind of like, it's totally like a friendly sort of competition with, some money on the line, but not a ton of money. So like what happened was these companies put a lot of money into sort of the stakes, so it wasn't just like this long season-long slog. It was like every day you put in money and you can win or lose based on what happens in that day. So if you got an NBA game that night, you put some money in on certain players, kind of like a fantasy team. But it's dependent on how they do on that specific day where you win or lose money rather than entire season. So the problem for them was suddenly regulators and lawmakers kind of looking at this and saying, like, why isn't this gambling? Gambling is illegal outside of sports gambling is illegal outside of, Vegas and Nevada and a handful of states. It certainly is far from, widespread in the U.S. So how are these companies permitted to exist? And so that was really their biggest question that they really had to kind of face a reckoning with once they had like all these ads in everyone's living rooms. Everyone was like, how is this legal? How is this not sports gambling? And that was a legitimate question.
It was interesting. Certainly finding funding for any startup company is a challenge. But I thought it was interesting the way they had to look for money when they had a product that was really in uncharted territory. What was their challenge in getting the initial startup and finding continued amount of funding?
Well, it was convincing people, investors with money, media companies, but also private equity and venture capital firms who just, have a ton of money and are looking for startups that have just massive potential. And I think what these firms and, investment groups and, essentially just backers who can really turn your startup from three guys in a closet spaced place in a townhouse into a company with, maybe 50 people or 100 people. So you have to sell them on the upside. And what the upside was the fact that this thing is bigger than fantasy sports, actually. It's really about gaining people who are, again, sports fans who are just interested in having, making their, weekends, Sunday afternoons watching NFL games maybe just a little bit more interesting or having reason to watch. And the reason to watch is to see if you're going to make maybe $5, $10, $15, $20. And then things got a little out of control with some people with, in some cases, hundreds of dollars and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars at stake. And the stakes just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so what the investors saw was, okay, well, if you have people willing to spend money and potentially lose money, and they're okay with that because it's an entertainment product. Well, if we get, 10 million people playing our product, well, that adds up to a lot. So it was really getting investors buying into this idea that, okay, this is actually bigger than just this kind of quirky, weird daily fantasy sports game, but it's something more massive. It's about fantasy sports, but it's also about really what effectively is sports gambling at the end of the day.
In my experience with daily fantasy sports, I found it to be a male-dominated type of business, but it's fascinating to see that it was a woman who shaped and influenced the business model of daily fantasy sports. And you mentioned her before. Tell me a little bit about Leslie Eccles, who was the co-founder of FanDuel. I thought she was the most fascinating person that you described in the book.
Yeah, I mean, what I wanted to do with the story is really tell the story just through a few characters. I don't think that, recounting sort of just the events and kind of painting a picture of like how these companies came to be in broad strokes would be sort of like a compelling book. You can kind of get that from, Wikipedia and just kind of reading about the companies. So really wanted to focus on the characters. And, as you mentioned, sort of like what sort of drew me into this story was really kind of telling the story through characters that you wouldn't expect to be sort of at the center of the story of startups and sports gambling and fantasy sports. And, Leslie Eccles is kind of like an extreme sort of example of, what these companies, and really, I mean, honestly, like kind of companies beyond FanDuel and DraftKings. I mean, there are many other companies that were sort of in this sort of race to win the market. And she, look, she's a woman, and this is a very male-dominated industry, and you're not just talking about fantasy sports or even just like, even the venture capital world, kind of sort of heavy on sort of, male-dominated space. So she's former consultant, not a sports fan at all, but what she really was hyper competitive. And so the real tension of the story, and that's why things kind of spun out of control in terms of the competition between DraftKings and FanDuel, was her competitive nature, saying that, like, we're going to beat DraftKings, we're going to be number one in this. And so she led the marketing campaign pretty early on, and things kind of spun out of control from that. And yeah, I mean, it's really interesting how just like the decisions of just like a small group of people really dictated the fate of these companies and this industry, and ultimately kind of, made an impact on sort of the larger landscape where we are now today.
For someone who actually read the commercials and was asking producers, like, wow, I've never seen this many commercials come at us. I had to read 3 commercials an hour. What they did was they set up an account for me. They put some money in the account, and every commercial I had to read a script, and then they had a section where tell the audience Dave's personal experience with FanDuel over the weekend. I was like, wow, boy, it's pretty extravagant. But that was Leslie, right?
She thought that, well, if you hear sort of someone's personal experiences and them recount, hey, I won, $50 over the weekend, you can do that too.
I never won. That was the problem.
Yeah, but you probably could see how the ads were pretty effective.
While reading your book, I felt this tension that I'm sure the two companies felt about whether what they're doing was legal and considered gambling. I'm from New Jersey, and during that time, I was watching my local news because New Jersey was going through the court system to get sports betting legal. And without fail, the local news, let's go to a break. And without fail, there'd either be a FanDuel or a DraftKings commercial. And I think a lot of people thought, well, we're going through court and they're gambling right now. They're doing gambling commercials, but New Jersey has to go through court to actually do what these companies are doing. I mean, inside both these companies, was there a fear that what they were doing could end in an instant?
Well, there was so all the ads happened, and then, there was sort of this turning point where there was a kind of a scandal, really, that was kind of splashed over headlines regarding a player who, was alleged to have used insider information to win a lot of money. And so the allegation was that because he worked at DraftKings, he was privy to some insider information, and he was actually playing on FanDuel, and he won $350,000 on a tournament. So that set off a lot of red flags in the media, and then ultimately with, attorneys general across the country and just, Department of Justice, and what is going on here? Are these companies just fleecing their customers? And so once the states got involved and started actually shutting them down because there were concerns about initially this insider trading deal, which turned out to be, in that specific instance, there was an outside firm that determined that this was not, something problematic actually did not happen. But there was this kind of issue of employees playing these games on, their rivals' apps. So it was kind of like a strange dynamic that was going on. So that was the red flags of just employees winning a lot of money playing daily fantasy games. But then once the regulators got going, they were shutting the companies down because they viewed them as illegal gambling operations. And that's when it got really dicey for the companies. And yeah, it was life or death, waking up every day in late 2015, early 2016, and sort of wondering where this was all going to head within the companies. That okay, they were shut down in New York State, shut down in many, many states. Actually, it began to snowball. And that's when, it actually seemed likely that both DraftKings and FanDuel were not going to exist because there was no revenues. There wasn't really sort of any way that these companies were going to make money. So, yeah, I mean, it was really, really, really dicey there for a while.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side. Sign up at jackpot.com and you can bet on the world's best lotteries where the biggest jackpots are up for grabs. Powerball, Mega Millions, some of the biggest lotteries can be found at jackpot.com. Simply choose your lotto game, pick your numbers, or use their quick pick feature, and you're done. Sign up at jackpot.com with code DRAW24 and get a free lottery ticket with your first deposit. Jackpot.com, it's the world of lotto in your hand. Terms and conditions apply. You must be at least 18 years old and in the United States to play. Void where prohibited. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
With costs going up, Adam and Eve is the best deal around. With 50% off a sexy adult product at adamandeve.com. That's 50% off right now when you point the camera on your smartphone at the code on the screen. Don't get up. Just open your camera and point it at the screen. Hurry! You'll also get 10 free gifts, including free discreet shipping at checkout. This is your chance to get more for less. So scan now for 50% off plus 10 free gifts from adamandeve.com.
You're listening to House of Cards.
I'll bet you $20 I can get you gambling before the end of the day. No way. I'll give you 3-1 odds. No. 5-1. No. 10-1. You're on.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you. House of Cards is brought to you by BetMGM Casino. Play your favorite casino games at BetMGM Online Casino. Slots, table games, live dealer games, everything you love about Atlantic City and Vegas, all online at BetMGM. Go to BetMGM Casino, create an account using our promo code Turnpike, and become a verified player. New players get $25 free when signing up, plus a first deposit bonus up to $1,000. That's promo code Turnpike at BetMGM.com for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus $25 free. Must be 21 years or older to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Albert Chen, author of Billion Dollar Fantasy, the high-stakes game between FanDuel and DraftKings that upended sports in America. Well, let me ask you about that. The employee's name was Ethan Haskell, which was a very interesting part of the book. Were the states heading that way anyway, and did the incident with Ethan Haskell just accelerate the situation?
Were they headed in that way in terms of
really regulating and taking a hard look at these companies?
That's a great point. I mean, I do think that it was inevitable, and I think there was probably there was certainly like arrogance on the part of both companies, thinking that we're just going to spend a ridiculous amount of money and, just bulldoze everyone. And this idea that they could just splash their ads everywhere and assume that everyone would just be fine with it was definitely pretty, really arrogant, and they would sort of admit that now. In terms of the employees, that was just a tremendous oversight on the company, part of the companies, where they just did not really sort of see this as a problem, when clearly, just from the outside looking in, if you have employees making more money, winning, these massive prizes than they were making at their day jobs, at the fantasy companies themselves, that is certainly would seem like a huge problem to you and me. But things were just moving so quickly where they just wanted to grow that they just overlooked this. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it wasn't going to be Ethan Haskell, it was going to be something else, for sure.
One of the epic battles that FanDuel and DraftKings had to fight was in New York. For those who don't know, what was New York's issue with regard to daily fantasy sports? And it seems like it's still going on in the courts of New York. What's the status of daily fantasy sports in the state of New York?
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, that's sort of where the main drama played out, was in the state of New York in terms of, because, obviously New York State is a big state, and, whether they were going to be allowed to operate in New York was really ultimately going to determine sort of the fate of the companies and what their really, viability was going forward. Eric Schneiderman, the Attorney General for New York, shut them down in, I believe it was November 2015. He saw all the ads, things snowballed, and his determination was that there was, a few things. I mean, the fact that certainly that these companies were kind of pretty clearly sports gambling companies, and sports gambling is illegal in New York State. That was a problem, but also the fact that, what he actually targeted was the advertising and kind of these ads telling you and me that we actually have a chance to win a lot of money. In fact, have a really good chance at that, when in actuality, the odds are pretty slim because, you're playing against people who really know what they're doing, and the odds are just like really stacked against you. So ultimately what happened was that they settled. I mean, the two companies did pay a settlement with the state, and there was a daily fantasy sports bill that passed in New York, so that daily fantasy was legal in New York and in New York going forward. So that was sort of dicey, and that was sort of resolved in the fall of 2016. But now, there is a continuing drama. I think that it sort of changes every day in terms of daily fantasy. Yeah. But I think now we're getting to really what is the larger picture, and really sort of the more important sort of story is, sports gambling, because now FanDuel and DraftKings are sports gambling companies, and it really is about the legality of sports gambling in states like New York and states where it is currently illegal. It's legal in New Jersey. DraftKings and FanDuel are thriving in New Jersey because you and I can bet on our phones in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. But the question now is, how quickly are people going to be able to do that across the country?
You mentioned sports betting, and I found it very interesting in your book that you described the sports betting establishment in Las Vegas. How did they view daily fantasy sports? Did they see it more of a new opportunity, or was it a threat to their monopoly on sports betting?
Well, they certainly perceived it as a threat to their business in sports gambling. Now, I would argue, and I think a lot of people would agree with me now, is that in actuality, the daily fantasy sports product was not a threat because it was pretty small peanuts compared to what their business was. Now, yeah, was there a threat of them chipping away at their business and certainly potentially, you get into daily fantasy, you're ultimately going to be into sports gambling. I think that, that those are legitimate questions. But, Vegas, in terms of their casinos and their sports books, I mean, they certainly viewed these companies as a threat and were certainly, big adversaries against what the growth that these companies were experiencing, particularly in Nevada. So, there was certainly, I mean, Nevada, shut them down, and for a long period of time, like those two companies, it's funny because the landscape changes so much that actually, I'm not sure in terms of daily fantasy what their current situation is in Nevada, but I'm almost fairly certain that they certainly in a number of states, FanDuel and DraftKings are not able to operate their daily fantasy operations. But what I will say is their business is really about sports wagering going forward, and that is now sort of the big play for not only them, but certainly for Nevada, those casinos there, and for these major gambling companies and entities and media companies going forward.
I got to ask you, in your opinion, would we have sports betting today if DraftKings and FanDuel did not come out with daily fantasy sports? I mean, did the daily fantasy sports allow for an easier transition to sports betting?
Well, I don't think anyone says the transition was easy, certainly for these companies, but I see your point. It's a great question because things, I think did accelerate faster. No doubt they accelerated faster than what any of us expected. And it is a good question. We certainly would not be in this exact point without these two companies. I do think what's interesting is, New Jersey is a good example and really at the forefront of what things are, the way they're headed and the way where we're going forward. And look, DraftKings and FanDuel are the two biggest players. FanDuel is the biggest in New Jersey. And so, given that logic, I think certainly going forward to view these two companies as positioned to be very well positioned to be the two main sports gambling players in the country tells you all you need to know. I mean, I think that, they are well positioned in terms of getting their customers. And the awareness that their ads did was just at least get the conversation going. You had a lot of media covering sort of the intersection of money and sports and mobile sort of games. And so like it was just in the conversation and certainly got on the radars of states. So that really sort of accelerated things in a large sense. Now, I do think sports gambling, nationwide is inevitable, but, we're still at a point where in New York, you can't wager on your phones and have to go to, these two casinos upstate to do it. And in the vast majority of states, sports gambling is still not legal.
You mentioned it. Not only FanDuel and DraftKings are the top daily fantasy sports providers, but they're also two of the most successful sports books in this country. I gotta ask you, would one company be as successful if it wasn't for the other one being there? I mean, do you think they drove each other to the success they enjoy today?
Well, it's not only driving each other to the success, and that's a great point because it really is like an escalation that they just like were hyper competitive and just like went after each other and spent a lot of money and got that awareness out there. But, on the flip side is they would not have had, they were really in turmoil in 2015, 2016, and they would not sort of be in that position to the point where they really almost were completely decimated. And they wouldn't have been in that position without sort of the hyper competitiveness between the two. But, they pushed each other to innovate, to really sort of get going in terms of innovation and really pushing each other to just be as the best version of this that they could possibly be. So in that sense, I think they pushed each other without question. But yeah, it was really, this hyper competitiveness, like in one sense, they're still standing and well positioned, but in another sense, they were really battered in ways that they, I think a lot of the employees still go through PTSD in terms of some of the just, they had questions about whether some executives were maybe even going to go to jail. So that was really sort of, it was a traumatic time personally for a lot of people within the companies.
I got to tell you, it seems like these two companies are always in the news. I guess last month we had a husband and wife reality star get denied $1 million from DraftKings because of suspected collusion. Is it just the nature of their business that there are always going to be controversies regarding their services?
Yeah, look, whenever money's involved, there's going to be controversy. And I think like the main controversies going forward, these two companies and every gambling entity is that's really sort of, I think, what next wave of problems is like, how is this going to affect, people's lives and potentially like damage people's lives? We know that it's good for teams in the sports industry. There's a lot of interest and that's great for a lot of people. And there's a lot of people who are going to make a lot of money. But I do think there are going to be a lot of negative effects. And I think that people who bring up those points, as long as they know what they're talking about, have really good concerns.
Give us an update on some of the main players from FanDuel and DraftKings. I know Jason Robbins is still with DraftKings. However, Nigel Eccles and his wife Leslie are still fighting to get proceeds from the sale of FanDuel, which is amazing. Can you give us an update on what's going on with everyone involved?
Sure. So in terms of the founders of DraftKings, all three co-founders are still there. As you mentioned, Jason Robbins is CEO, and the company's doing well. It's positioned well as a sports gambling company going forward. They did raise a lot of money, so there's a lot of questions about at what time is this company going to be profitable. But in terms of awareness and their sort of footprint in the landscape, they're in good shape. FanDuel is doing exceptionally well as a company. I think that a lot of people view them as potentially better positioned than DraftKings potentially in a lot of states, certainly in New Jersey, where I think like that's like an important place where this war is taking place. They've done extremely well, and but all five co-founders of FanDuel are no longer with the company. As you mentioned, there is a lawsuit that was recently filed that includes the co-founders, but also 100 other former employees. Essentially, they just want their piece of the pie because FanDuel, they were acquired by a UK sports betting titan out there, and that was a big moment for the company. But a lot of the early sort of stakeholders were shut out. And look, it's certainly tragic that a lot of these co-founders were shut out and don't, are walking away with nothing from that big acquisition. Others would argue, and certainly this is the FanDuel argument, is that, look, this is the risk you take when you raise hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, is that your stake of the company gets smaller and smaller. Now, so that drama is still yet to be played out, but in terms of the story of the 5 FanDuel founders, pretty satisfying ending in that, their story is over. They left their industry and the company, and now really it's just like a question of how much money they're going to get out of this, if any, at the end of the day. Now, what their achievement is pretty, I think deserves certainly recognition, and like it's an incredible story of 5 people who kind of had no interest in sports and really sort of building this company that is really well positioned to be a dominant player in sports gambling in the United States.
Albert, we're running out of time, but I want to remind everyone the title of this amazing book is $1 Billion Fantasy, the high-stakes game between FanDuel and DraftKings that upended sports in America. Albert Chen, you wrote a fascinating book, and I urge everyone to pick it up because you will not be able to put it down. Albert, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
With costs going up, Adam and Eve is the best deal around. With 50% off a sexy adult product at adamandeve.com. That's 50% off right now when you point the camera on your smartphone at the code on the screen. Don't get up. Just open your camera and point it at the screen. Hurry! You'll also get 10 free gifts, including free discreet shipping at checkout. This is your chance to get more for less. So scan now for 50% off plus 10 free gifts from adamandeve.com.
Casino. People gotta win sometime.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a giant, colorful check to deposit.
Welcome to another edition of Beating the House. I'm Doug Weishuttle here with Dave Weishuttle. We're going to be crisscrossing the country, sometimes the continent, sometimes even the world, talking about the latest jackpots in the casino and lottery industries. If it's $100,000 or more, we will be talking about it on this show. Game announcements, jackpot announcements, news of any sort regarding the casinos and lotteries, let us hear it. Info at turnpikesportsradio.com.
Seems like lots of games are coming out right now, or I'm just realizing that, how many there are from this segment. It seems like every week there's new games coming out.
Well, the one thing I have noticed, and I noticed this last year too, when you have the slowdown in the sports betting menu, everyone turns their focus on to the casinos.
Oh, okay, maybe that's it.
And especially now with we're here in Jersey Shore. What do you do on the beach? If you're not in Atlantic City, if you're in one of the other beaches, you can actually sit on the beach and go to the casino.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm thinking that may be an activity that's increased, so we're seeing a lot more games coming out to match that increase.
By the way, if you can do that, more power to you. Whenever I'm on the beach or in any sunny situation, I can't see the screen of my phone. So if you can actually shield it out somehow and shield out the sun and actually see the screen of your phone, good for you. Tell me how to do it. Email us and tell me how you do it.
Well, that's why you bring the gambling umbrella with you. You pop the umbrella up and you just do the phone underneath the umbrella or the tablet. Some people bring tablets to the beach too. Yeah. But it's almost like coincidental. Maybe it is just coincidental. But when the sports betting menu slows down or the sports betting activity slows down, the casino activity, people pay more attention. Maybe this is the same amount of games coming out.
I'm thinking that because we started doing this segment, all the new games coming out, that I'm realizing, oh my God, there's a ton of games coming out. There's a ton of games being developed, and I'm sure you have new games for us today, but it's just amazing how many they're churning out.
As a matter of fact, I've got new games today.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Actually, I got one new game that's out and an announcement regarding games that will be coming out.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to start off with the game that is already out because I've actually played this.
Okay.
BetMGM. has...
I think I heard about this
yes.
one. Okay.
They have a deal with a company called Atlantic Digital, which is a London-based studio that does premium branded entertainment-based games. You know, they take shows and they do the IP from the show, intellectual property from the shows.
Yeah, chances are if you have a hit show, you're going to have a casino game or a slot machine.
As a matter of fact, you've probably played some of these games in the past. You have The Godfather. I've played that.
Yeah, I've played that.
I've played the Star Trek The Next Generation game.
I've not played that.
Ace Ventura I've played.
I might have played that, but I'm not sure.
And Cheers. I've played Cheers.
Okay.
I've played all of those games. This is part of Atlantic Digital and BetMGM's partnership. The latest one, and if you're a fan of the TV show Friends, this is the very first official online casino game based on that television series. Now, I am not a Friends fan. I have never seen an episode of Friends.
Really? No, I've watched it. No, it's a good show. Great show. It was a good show. So.
The two shows I have not really...
Still is. It's constantly in rotation on, and it's in syndication.
I have never seen an episode.
Really?
I'm familiar with the theme song because I was all over the radio. I'll Be There For You with the Rembrandts, all that stuff. But I have never seen an episode of the show. So I'm going to be talking about features from the game that reference the TV show. If you know what these are, great.
Okay. I probably do. I've seen a lot of episodes.
Well, what this is Friends, the one with the multi-drop.
Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming the one with the multi-drop, that's how they phrase their titles.
The titles is, the one where the guy wears the hat, or the one where someone hooks up, or something like that. It always starts with the one,
Okay.
So that's what that's referring
to. Like
I
said, I have never seen an episode of Friends.
Wow.
I've seen nothing of Friends, and for the TV challenge among us, I have never seen too many Seinfelds. I've seen a smattering of Seinfelds.
Oh, my God.
I've seen about 6 episodes of Seinfeld.
I think I've seen every one about 100 times.
Although I will say this, the 6 or 7 episodes of Seinfeld I've seen, they're constantly on TV. Every time I flip through channels, that one's on that I've seen. So I don't end up watching any more of it. But anyway, back to Friends. We've got Friends, the one with the multi-drop. It just launched. It has images of, let me get the names right, Ross and Monica, Chandler. I guess that's the actor that just passed away. Matthew Perry. Yes. Joey Tribbiani, that's how you say it. Phoebe Buffay. And Rachel.
Yeah, Phoebe, I never knew what her last name was. For some reason, I've watched the show, and Buffay, I've never knew what the her last name was.
Well, the game is set in Monica and Rachel's apartment.
Yeah, that's kind of like the main set, of the show.
So they're in that apartment with an instrumental version of the theme song "I'll Be There For You" playing as you get into the game.
So this is the kind of game you want to have the sound on.
If you like the song.
Okay, all right. So,
I mean, it's an earworm.
Well, it's an earworm. It brings back a lot of memories for a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah. So put the sound on.
I guess I'm creating new memories.
Well, there you go. Hey, you know what? If you start watching it, you like it, you found something new. So
yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
Anyway, they have familiar phrases, and again, I've never seen the show, so you probably know these. Pivot. I don't know what that means.
I'm going to say it. It's the one with they're carrying up a couch up the stairway, and the stairs go to the right, and Ross is yelling, "Pivot, pivot."
Okay.
You see, you should have told me. I would have gotten the drop from, probably the show. So and the game.
This phrase I know because it's a meme out there. How you doing? I guess that's Joey, Matt LeBlanc or whatever his name is. And then "You're my lobster." I don't know what the hell that is.
I'm not quite sure what that one is.
So the phrases are in there. And then you have the game itself. It's a 6x5 cluster game featuring multi-drop multipliers that accumulate during free spins. Now
this is all online, right?
This is all online.
See, I'm surprised they don't have a land-based one of this. So
well,
maybe that's coming. So
it's got a lot of different features, bonus features as well. There's a lot of good music in it. They say I have the music off. I didn't even know the theme song was part of this game when I was playing it.
Okay.
So
well, look, I mean, if you're in a place where you don't want to bother people, or you're in a place where you're playing this game
I
when
just
you're
didn't
not
have the
supposed to
sound
be
off.
playing the game. People have the sound off. So.
Well, I just didn't have. I just never had the sound.
I have
on
to
when
tell
I
you,
was playing.
traveling to New York all the time, and New Jersey has everything online, the poker and the online casinos and stuff like that. If you're riding on a train, if everyone had their sound on, it'd be maddening.
It'd be like a casino.
Yeah, well, no, with the different songs and stuff like that.
And like I said, we're running out of time here for the segment.
Oh,
We've got it's on BetMGM Live now, Michigan and New Jersey.
Okay.
And when you go to BetMGM, sign up. Turnpike is our promo code. 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus $25 on the house to play in the casino. It's bonus money.
Okay.
Terms and conditions: 1-800-GAMBLER for problem gambling. 21 and older, both states. Now, the other new game or future new game that is going to be coming out is from Hasbro.
I heard about this.
Why am I bringing up a game company? Because Hasbro did a deal with Evolution and Aristocrat Gaming, plus all their subsidiaries. There's like 6 or 7 listed in the release here. But Hasbro will be bringing its brands Monopoly, Yahtzee, and Battleship. Wow. I still have not played Yahtzee. I played Battleship. I played Monopoly.
The last game we talked about, the Friends game, I said, everyone wants to remember their childhood and the past. Boy, Hasbro, talk about remembering your past. Monopoly, Yahtzee, Battleship, oh my God.
Well, Evolution's part
and
of
now
the
you can
deal.
Win money at it.
Exactly.
Real money. Play Monopoly and win real money.
These are going to be launching in 2026 and after. Mm-hmm. But Evolution will be doing live dealer type games based upon those 3 properties. Monopoly is going to be coming first. You've got Monopoly Live, Monopoly Big Baller. Those are already there.
Mm-hmm.
The new arrangement that between Hasbro and Evolution are going to lead to new titles. Let me get the names right. They're going to be launching January 2026. Game Night, Monopoly Filthy Rich, and Monopoly Roulette.
Wow, nice. And these are live dealer,
all hosted by live presenters.
See, that's
They're going to be
awesome.
set up like that, what is that one, the game shows. They're
Oh,
going to
yeah.
be a live game show.
Yeah, they call them game shows. Because, and they are kind of like game shows because I stream them on my smart TV. And, it's like you're watching a game show that you're winning real money in and you're really participating in. So it's really great.
And Evolution is doing the online side. Aristocrat is doing the retail side. You're going to be seeing Monopoly-themed slot machines worldwide in brick-and-mortar casinos.
But by the way,
no word on where they're going to be.
Do you know
yet.
how cool it is to play a Monopoly game in Atlantic City where the game is based? You look at a Monopoly board, it's all the streets of Atlantic City. So to be playing that in Atlantic City, it's really great.
Well, you're going to be playing that in 2026.
Great.
So, and also the live ones, too, for online. That's it for the game announcements. We're going to be right back with our casino jackpots. Welcome back to Beating the House. Doug Weishuttle here with Dave Weishuttle. We're going to be starting off our casino jackpot tour of the country, and we're staying in we're not staying in the country this week. We've got a Canada jackpot to talk about, too.
Okay, Canadian jackpot.
Yes, we're going to start off, though, Connecticut, going up 95 to Connecticut.
That's either Foxwoods or Mohegan Sun.
We're going to the Casino of the Earth in Mohegan Sun. Yes,
right.
Casino
Didn't
of the
we
Earth.
have Mohegan Sun a couple weeks ago or
We've had
last
several
week?
Mohegan Suns.
What's going on in Connecticut?
Actually,
by the way, the woods of Connecticut, those things are
yeah.
out in the woods. So it's a beautiful area.
I think 3 of the last 4 weeks we've had a Mohegan Sun jackpot.
Okay, all right. Some loose slots at Mohegan. Is this a slot game?
No, this is a table game.
Okay.
This is a table game. It's not one of the Huff and Puffs. By the way, Mohegan Sun claims to be the Huff and Puff Center in the Northeast. So they've got over
so much about
100 different versions of the game.
I just saw commercials for Huff and Puff. The online casino, one online casino. I forgot what it was, but they have Huff and they're promoting it like hell. I mean, okay.
Well,
so, you have Huff and Puff. Great.
I want to thank AGS for sending over the press release.
All right.
I got this directly from them. We've got a guest at Mohegan Sun playing the blackjack variation Spanish 21 with the optional side bet called the Bonus Spin Extreme, which was created by AGS.
Wow, okay.
This player actually did the $5 Bonus Spin Extreme side bet.
Okay. And why wouldn't you? I mean, if you have a side bet on any game, do it. It always pays off if you win.
No word on what his actual the standard bet was, but the side bet was the $5 optional Bonus Spin Extreme side bet, which allowed him to cash in for $2,018,742.30.
Wow, that's great. Wow, that's amazing.
Yes. Well, the bonus.
See, what I tell you about the side bet and things like that?
The bonus spin extreme is a huge multiplier if it hits.
Yeah, obviously.
So
it's
a couple
$2
different
million.
things trigger it.
Over $2 million, for God's sake.
But it's the largest table game progressive jackpot in AGS history.
Wow.
So congratulations, AGS.
Yeah,
too.
AGS making history.
One of the top 5 table game payouts in Mohegan Sun history, too. So we had some history-making win right there. Leaving Connecticut, we're heading out to Nevada for another jackpot from the Fontainebleau, Las Vegas. Not the one in Florida, but the one in Las Vegas.
Okay.
We've got a Baccarat.
Okay, Baccarat.
And no,
I haven't. I kind of know the fundamentals of that game, but I've never played it in a casino.
Well, no word on what
I should try it online first.
No word on what the bet was because this is UFC President Dana White, who was actually playing Baccarat at the Fontainebleau before UFC 317.
Okay.
He was. There's video of this as he's cheering, the crowds are cheering and all that stuff as he's constantly
was there
playing.
like a big crowd behind him
it's
kind of
Dana
thing?
White.
Sure,
if you recognize him, you're going to hang out and watch him and all that stuff.
That's got to be fun for him, but it's got to be a little bit of pressure on him too.
He was having a ball.
Obviously,
according to the reports, after a string of winning hands of Baccarat, he did one last bet.
All right.
Whatever he did, he pushed his entire stack in. Mm-hmm. And he ended up winning $1.2 million on his last spin.
Wow.
Yeah,
nice.
So congratulations, Dana White. I don't know why we're congratulating the guy. He's so damn successful to begin with. So
no, it's great. Yeah. No, it's good for him.
It's
and
good fun, too. It
was entertaining for everyone around him and everyone watching, so good for him.
And also, it's great for Fontainebleau with that promotion. The marketing is free marketing right there.
Yeah, well, you can't buy press
it cost them $1.2 million if you think about it.
Yeah, but they'll get that back right away. So, but
the people there watching him probably took his seat and started playing.
See, everyone's a winner there.
Exactly.
Dana White's a winner. The the casino's a winner. The people watching were very entertained and got to see something special. So good, great.
Well, we're going to be leaving Nevada and we're heading out to Colorado. You haven't been to Colorado in a while. The Monarch Casino Resort Spa.
I interviewed someone from the Monarch.
Their CEO.
Did I?
Yes,
Okay, I can't remember.
Well, we've got a player at the Monarch Casino left with a lot of cash in his wallet here. We've got a player doing a $50 bet, 2:26 a.m. in the morning on a Wednesday morning.
How specific? 2:26.
That's in the press release. 2:26 a.m. Wednesday morning, $50 bet on a Dragon Link slot machine. It's the Dragon Link Autumn Moon variation, to be exact here. Progressive jackpot of $1,030,547.91.
Okay. This week, we have some huge jackpots we're talking about. Enormous.
Second such win, this is their phrasing, second such win at the casino since it's opened in its 12-year history here. So it's 12 years old. This is the second time a win this big has happened.
Wow.
Yes.
Great.
Similarly, it was a Dragon Link Golden Century machine that paid out another $1.08 million jackpot in January of this year. So everything's happening now. Similar size wager to $50.
Oh, okay.
Yes. That's it for this week's Beating the House. Congratulations to all the winners we talked about this week. We only do $100,000 or more on the show. Plenty of winners out there for lottery, casino, table game slots, Keno, bingo. I've had a couple bingo lately, so very cool to see that.
There's a bingo room opening somewhere. I did a story on that.
Gila River.
Yeah.
Over in Arizona, I think.
have no idea.
Santon Mountain.
Okay.
It's either Arizona or New Mexico. I don't have it in front of me here. But anyway, congratulations to everybody out there that's won a jackpot in the past week. Game announcements, jackpot announcements, info@turnpikesportsradio.com.
Well, that'll do it for us this week. We'll see you next time with House of Cards.